Hey, welcome to Storied, a podcast where we take a story or idea from one medium and adapt it into another. My name is Sean Ainsworth.
I'm Chris Rebbert.
And I'm Sean Ainsworth. I'm Harrison Payne.
Hey, I'm Sean Ainsworth.
So our second episode today is about the show Bob's Burgers, and we're going to take it and turn it into an adventure game, a video game that is an adventure game. So I think we should... Yeah.
Maybe that's where we should start, is to figure out what the hell that means.
Yeah. There's lots of different types of adventure games from different periods in adventure game history. Like, we could go all the way back to, like, text adventure game, or a sort of LucasArts style adventure game, or a Sierra style adventure game, or a more modern sort of like Firewatch or Gone Home style adventure game, first person, stuff like that. So maybe we should sort of figure out where on that sort of spectrum we feel like the show most makes sense.
When somebody says the word adventure game, what do you guys think of? I'm just curious.
Puzzles, pointing around, clicking with a mouse.
Pointing and clicking. I think honestly the first thing I come to is the like early graphic adventure games, LucasArts era, sort of Monkey Island or like King's Quest, stuff like that.
I feel like Bob's Burgers is kind of out of time a little bit, so I feel like we're safe. Like, normally I would say, let's try and make something that's sort of its era, right? Like, if we were talking about E.T., we would probably look at 82. Not the game they obviously made out of E.T. That would be terrible.
Yes.
But I think Bob's Burgers sort of feels like, to me, that it fits in that classic adventure game genre a little bit. I think it's why we kind of earmarked it for this.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's not like that's been abandoned, and it's more of an RPG. But I think of the Stick of Truth, the South Park game, because it's kind of got that similar.
Did you say an RBG?
Might be
a role-playing game.
but I also think it's Thimbleweed Park just came out,
which
is like a resurgence in that sort of.
But it also like sands the rough edges off the adventure. Like, there's no like deaths where you don't pick up the right item and like 2 hours later you realize that you screwed yourself, or like just the stuff that just made those games back in the day. They just like elongated how long that game took on purpose. But nowadays, nobody has time for that kind of shit anymore. So they
and also, I mean, depending on the game, right? Like, LucasArts games never let you die, really, unless you tried real hard.
Sierra games did all the time.
Sierra games, yeah.
Which is funny because I kind of grew up on Sierra games and then found LucasArts games later, and I know that you started with.
I started with King's Quest IV: The Perils of Rosilla.
Did you really? Okay, yeah. So I started with King's Quest V.
Okay.
And King's Quest VI, which came pre-installed on my computer when I was a kid. And then from there, I moved into LucasArts
with CompuServe and AOL Online.
Yeah, exactly.
No, those are rivals. Wait, that doesn't make any sense.
I can't remember the first one I played. I think I didn't play them for a while. I had to watch Sean play them because he was a shady older brother.
Yes,
who had his own computer.
It's not your turn yet,
and he wouldn't let me. Well, he wouldn't let me touch his computer. So I think my mom's compromise.
Greasy fingers.
Okay, did you have Dorito fingers?
I still do, but I think my mom's compromise was so that I had to be able to watch him play.
But what's great about adventure games in general, and why I still love them, is they are very much a group. They can be a group activity where one person might be controlling it, but really a lot of the fun comes from the thought process and the thinking, the interaction between the characters and the world. So you can easily just be playing that game. Like, when I was growing up in Bermuda, we would go off out playing in the out in the garden or whatever, and be still thinking about this thing, because being what if we tried this and this, do those two items together or whatever.
Right, it's really story and character and mentally kind of investing. My fiance, who never plays games ever, was watching me play Thimbleweed Park. She just got sucked into it, over my shoulder, and was what's going on? And she wanted to help me solve the clues, because there's actually
it's a real story.
There's actually and there's goals. There's you don't need to know the mechanics. You just need to be able to figure out, if I put these things together or talk to this person about this thing.
Yeah.
I actually remember a very, very, very long afternoon trying to figure out the can puzzle in The Seventh Guest with my friend Dan. There's a bunch of cans, and they clearly have to spell something, spell a sentence, but there are no vowels except for there's a million Y's.
Oh man! So it's just one of those really obscure words. It has a bunch of Y's in it.
Shy gypsy, shyly, spryly, tryst by my crypt ended up being the answer.
Oh my god, I can't believe you remember that.
I know exactly why, because after all the time,
6 hours of fucking trying to figure that shit out. So we don't want to make it frustrating Bob's Burgers game.
Well,
I think in the spirit of the show, it should be very inclusive and fun.
Yeah, I agree.
And make fun of the sort of trappings of the adventure game. I feel like,
it's very self-aware.
Yeah, like the show is. I mean, the show, we sort of talked about this a little bit, kind of pre-gaming this, but like it's very much there's a lot of parody in it. There's Jaws episode, and there's an episode where they have there's a Fatal Attraction episode, and just making this the adventure game episode of the show feels maybe like the right way to go.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah, we it feels like you said, there's like the E.T. episode and the Jaws episode. Like, one thing that Bob's Burgers does really well is like they'll take an existing sort of premise and pay complete homage to it, but also just make it work really well in the Bob's Burgers world.
Right.
So, like, similarly, if we wanted to, we could take an existing adventure game and just kind of like transpose Bob's Burgers on top of it, at least for the foundation.
I mean, honestly, I think that as soon as you take it and make it look like Grim Fandango or one of the Monkey Island games, you're just going to get that immediately, right? Like, I think that even if it had the art, like, even if it was just hand-drawn in the same way that the actual show is, but you have, like, a little row of icons and a bunch of verbs on the bottom of the screen, it's just already going to feel...
And a Jane button! Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You just push it for Gene quotes.
Or you just have the keyboard. You can just have, like, the fart sound over and over.
But it's funny, like... It's deciding who you play as, right? Like, I think of Day of the Tentacle.
Yeah.
Because it's one of my favorite games. But
yeah.
It's like, it's so good at like swapping back and forth, and you have to work between everybody.
Yeah, you definitely want that.
Yeah, well, it feels like that maps 100% to this, because like the show is so like every character's story is in every episode. I mean, they kind of focus on different people, but like they don't ignore the other people ever. Right. It feels like it's very much about the family, the Belcher family, and making sure that the game's the same way, where it's like, you play as Tina, and you have to, like, get Jimmy Jr.'s butt. Go on. That's all you need.
No, I totally agree. And what's really great about the show is that it's very loving, and all the characters really love each other. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but like, there's no like punching down in the show. There's a lot of love. Even like Louise, who is the most like gruff, oddly like just like hate filled like character in the show, still like admits to loving her family and loving her dad and being embarrassed by that, but fully just admitting it. And like,
two of my favorite episodes are there's the one where Louise like accidentally kind of witnesses Tina's boy band, like favorite boy band.
Oh
and
my
she, like,
god,
totally falls in love with what's his name, Little Boo Boo. Like
she has her first crush.
Yeah, and she like hates herself for it, and like the way that she wrestles through it throughout the episode is just so true to the character, but it like still kind of does that storyline without ever straying from who we know Louise to be. It just kind of fleshes her out further, It's really good at that.
Even like Linda, like the mom, like she is always supportive of everything, even to like a comic absurd degree. Like, even when people come in and just ask absurd things of Bob or like get in his way, she's just like super excited by what's going on, and she just wants to get involved, and she constantly is pushing the story forward. She's never just like a footnote. So that's a long-winded way of saying, I totally agree. Like, having all the characters being a part of solving problems or solving like small puzzles in their own way. It's
like you almost feel like you basically sort of take that Day of the Tentacle approach where they're separated somehow, and then they like somebody's at the carnival or somebody's at Mr. Fischoder's like amusement park. Like, that's one section of the game. Like somebody's stuck at the restaurant. Somebody's at the house. Like, and you can switch that up as the story kind of progresses. They're at the high school, or not the high school. They're not in high school. I'm fucking
middle school.
Middle school.
But I think that's a good thing. But to kind of not gloss over though is like in defining our Bob's Burgers adventure game, is the world is just so well defined. It's like it's kind of been over 7 seasons now, and it's got so many sort of landmark locations.
Has it really?
Yeah,
it's in the 7th season right now. So it's kind of like getting that sort of developing that sort of Simpsons mythology, and there's returning characters and returning locations, and there's like Fischoder's house, the wharf. There's like the Church of Aquatica or whatever the heck it's called.
Don't know
it's
that
7th season episode.
But like everything definitely.
Well, there's like an island that they go trick or treating.
King's Head Island.
Yeah.
It's like all the rich guys.
That'd be a great
island.
like location in the game.
Yeah, you have to get on the ferry to get over there.
Yeah.
I feel like, to your point, Chris, like there is a very specific map. Like obviously in that studio when they're making that show, they know exactly what street they walk down to get to like the old folks like art studio, like the art place where those like crotchety old folks are, and like how far away from the wharf they are, and like where they are in relation to other restaurants, and it's very clear they know exactly where a lot of those like landmarks are. So the idea of having specific like locations like in Sam & Max where you can go back to the HQ
like a map and you can,
you click on a place and
you'll hop on their bikes and they ride there,
right?
Something like that.
So having each one of them like start at a different location, and then over time you find your way out of that location and make it back to the restaurant, and then from there you can then take other characters back to those locations and they can solve different puzzles based on the different maybe abilities that they have,
Yeah, that's and you were mentioning that you were talking about Linda earlier, and I just was thinking like maybe you're playing as Jean and you come across somebody who's just like, this might be the bad pitch, but somebody's just like down on their like spirit, and then you have to switch to Linda to talk to that person to kind of bring them up. You know what I mean? And Thimbleweed Park's been doing this, and I can't remember if Day of the Tentacle did it like before you split in time, but like you kind of have to be playing as a certain person to figure out some puzzles.
I think that's definitely the way to go for sure, because you can have the visual messaging of like, I wish someone else was here, but like I'm gonna propose the problem to this character, but they can't solve it, and then they can somehow say like, boy, I wish mom was here or whatever, and then you have to somehow get that character to that location. That's cool.
Yeah, or like there's I can imagine there being a tag team, where you have to get Gene to play his keyboard and Linda to sing. Puzzle, or like, you have to like I can say a Monkey Island style puzzle where you have to learn the right words.
Right.
To sing. You have to choose the right phrasings, and you can play the song over and over again.
Well, it's crazy. Linda is such a bad singer, but it's always like she just like makes up the lyrics on top of her head.
It's like a perfect for like a mechanic where you're just choosing it the next line. Before she's finished, like you just make up a song.
Yeah, that's great.
Me and my fiance still sing the "Here goes the hare, there goes the hare. Where is Harry Truman?"
Oh, yeah. He's dead in the ground.
It's so good.
I just love the idea that the actor just like came up with that in the recording booth. Like,
is that what happened?
I don't know. I like to imagine
that's what they do.
Yeah.
But some of them they're obviously written songs.
Sure,
but it still gels really well with the character as she's as we know.
They're great songs. That's the thing. It's like she's not a great like musician,
right?
But the songs are great.
Yes,
it's weird. It's kind of a weird dichotomy there.
There's the I can't remember what episode it was, but they did a James Bond intro spoof. I think there was an episode, a two-parter where like Fishoder's brother tries to kill them by like tying them to
the
pier.
Zach
Galifianakis.
Felix. Felix is such a good character too, because they hate each other, but they also love each other. Those two brothers.
And
he snaps and screams, and then gets really like, oh, excuse me, like fixes his hair and like
it's like this voluptuous girlfriend who's like masterminding the whole thing.
Right? Yeah, but like that whole episode, those two episodes have this like James Bond parody intro, because like Felix is like the Blofeld in the episode, so there's this really, really incredibly good like James Bond-esque like intro sequence with like the martini glass like silhouettes falling through the sky and like silhouettes of Linda doing finger guns and stupid stuff like that. And so their music is just absolutely awesome.
There's so much like ready-made puzzle material in this like there's so many things. There's like a burger game. You have to
make the burger of the day.
Yeah, it's like you have to subvert the burger of the day. Like it's called the chicken you believe it burger, and then you have to steal the chicken and hide it.
Right. Oh, or you based on the name of the burger what's missing from it. So you have to find that ingredient in like
right.
You know what I mean? Like it's the like if looks could kale burger, but there's no kale on it. But you have to go find the kale. Yeah. Like use kale on burger kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Bob's freaking out because and you have to be one of the kids. You have to go out and sort of find this to get him to help you with something. It's like I kind of feel like I almost feel like the parents like I don't think you play as Bob. I feel like you probably want to just be the kids, and the parents kind of, you can use them to help you with stuff.
Interesting.
Right? Like, maybe that's, I don't know.
Well, let's break that open a little bit and talk about it, because like I see where you're coming from, but I want to sort of talk about it a little bit more, because I think that using the kids alone opens some pretty interesting opportunities where they wouldn't have access to normal things the way that adults would, and they would have to use puzzle conventions and items and like build kludgy weird things, whereas a person could just use a key and open a door.
Yeah, I feel like it invites a lot more like
whimsy. Well,
just obvious puzzles to me, like, or obvious obstacles, you know,
right?
Like, you know, there's a beat where you're cutting school, and like you have to not get caught by the principal. I mean, that can still happen. What's the guidance counselor's name? Mr. Frond.
Yeah.
I almost said Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's not right.
But I do, to like you having to get a hall pass or like the perma pass. Like an adult wouldn't care about that; they just leave. So, like, yeah, being constrained by like societal rules in a way that an adult wouldn't be does definitely open up for more interesting opportunities for like obstacles and stuff.
But I think it's, you know, you might be able to play it in a way that Thimbleweed Park does this, where it's like chapters, and you can only play as certain characters in those chapters, which is really interesting. So, like, I was thinking, what are the places that we'd probably revisit, like from the show, and I think there's like this kind of seedy downtown that Bob goes to. He's got those like that in the cab driving episode. Like he makes those like transvestite friends. It's like Marshmallow and like it's you know, Jack McBrayer and somebody else to do the voices. But you know, maybe they have to go into that side of town, so you need to use Bob for that. You know what I mean? So there might be like puzzles for each character, and it's not a completely open world game per se. Like maybe it is, but like, you know, we kind of gate areas, and they only become available.
Well, yeah, I mean,
as you definitely want to do that.
You do the Sam and Max thing where you're investigating, you find out a new location, you have to go there, you know, or you can
and that just
go
becomes a thing you can go to after that. You can just click on the map and go to that place. Yeah.
There's something interesting to me too, though, about like, you know, having used a location we've seen in the show like that, but the kids go there, and it's like, what are you guys doing here? You know, like it's like that kind of a thing when Bob finds them, like, or like, you know, you have to call them to come get you out of a jam because you're stuck at a strip club.
Or just like the kids.
But everybody at the strip club's really nice.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Because that's what they would do on that show. It's like you get in there and it's like you learn a life lesson from the stripper somehow.
That's another thing that I really... I mean, we've talked about it a million times already, but like that's one of the things that I love about the show is that it sets up a situation or a scenario that in any other television show would just be like, oh, geez, this is going to get bad, or it's just going to go shitty. And it always ends up being a really, like, enriching experience for the people who go through it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something really unique to the show, and we should definitely capitalize on that.
Well, it subvert a lot of your sort of expectations about what that... Like, I think the show's really great at... There's a lot of... you've seen this before.
Right.
There's a setup that you've seen before, and then they take that setup in a completely new direction. Like one of my favorite episodes is the Working Girl, the play.
Oh yeah, putting on the Working Girl / Die Hard.
Yeah, / Die Hard. But like the Die Hard play is like happening as if, you know, it's the Bruce Willis in Die Hard thing where he's like they're sneaking around the vents and like they're. You know, they're putting it on, like, secretly, like he was in the movie, you know.
Yeah, it definitely mirrors, whatever thing they care about mirrors, like, the real thing they're dealing with in that moment.
Yeah, it's, like, super good, and I think, you know, there's a lot of, like, stuff to be, like, the game could be set up that same way, you know.
Yeah.
So like, it wouldn't be just one thing, it'd be, like, all kinds of adventure game things. Like, maybe there's a section you can die.
Yeah,
like it's like a King's Quest kind of a thing. Like maybe the whole game is a pastiche of adventure games. There's a text adventure section.
Well,
that's cool.
It's like, fun. It's funny you say that though, because there's been a couple episodes where like the kids will each tell a story. So it's like 3 little stories,
right?
And they're always derivative of something. So you might be able to do that with the game.
Well, they
know
have
what I mean?
the zombie episode or like the story. It's like they're creative writing assignments, and they read them in Mr. Franz's room because their parents got called in, and one of them is just about zombie like butts.
Yeah.
And then there's the one where like Gail has like a some sort of gift, and she only has one, and whoever writes the best story like wins it.
Oh man!
And then Louise like writes this whole like Game of Thrones thing with where they're all cats instead of dragons. And then I can't remember the other ones, but there was actually that just aired. There was a Mother's Day one where like Linda got sick and Bob couldn't make their like Mother's Day recital, and Bob promised to videotape it, but the camera broke. So like the kids instead made out better versions of each of their like performances because they were all separated by grades. So like Louise's was like a Western, and then Jean's was like this weird Roman sort of like deity based like fable, and then Tina's was the best. It started out as aliens, and then like she meets the queen alien, and they decide to body swap like Freaky Friday. It's so weird, but it's so good. But
I think that's the good thing about that show, right?
That's actually like Westworld, Future World in the Roman.
It was kind of like
that's weird. Yeah. So.
No, I like that in the show. The problem is always something really mundane, and it just spirals out into something absurd as they try and fix it. Like by trying to fix it, they just make it so much worse. Like there's the Linda's birthday episode where they're just trying to like make a nice day for her, and every single time she like goes out to do something, like something gets worse and worse and worse. Where like she locks her keys in her car, and then her phone doesn't work, and then she gets on the wrong bus, and then like while she's walking through the like fields to get home, like a skunk sprays her, and like, but as they mirror that with the kids trying to go out and try and find where she has been. So they like visit all of her spots, and each of the kids has a different memory with her mother at like a different place. Like she goes to a hotel just to like use their bathroom, and like everyone in the hotel knows her, and like Bob learns something about her that he didn't know. And it's like it's such a small concept that just becomes a much larger, more absurd thing. And I think that whatever the storyline of the game would be, should match that in some way.
Yeah, totally. I feel like, we basically can set up whatever the overarching narrative is. Like, there's like a larger narrative, but there's a bunch of small narratives within it, and there's room to play around with that. There's like there's room in the game for there to be a large narrative, but then also a feud with Jimmy Pesto and Tina's a Tina sequence, and all these things are sort of like asides that have a larger or a part to play in the larger narrative.
Right.
I had this idea for the potential plot. It sounds cliche, sort of adventure game plot.
That sounds good.
But
that's kind of what we're talking about.
But I think
we're hacks anyway. What difference does it make?
But I think it would work for this, like in that homage sort of taking a given premise and then Bob's Burgering the hell out of it, where it's like
is that a verb?
Yes,
Bob's Burgering.
It is now in the context of this episode. But I was just like something like Mr. Fisher decides like, I realize I'm not making any money and I could just sell the land, so I'm just going to knock down this old town. Do you know what I mean? Like something really Goonies-ish like that, where it's like you kind of have to then explore the whole town to like to pull everybody together, or to like find something that keeps him from being able to do that. There's like I'm trying to think of a game.
There's like a but like I feel like the Bob's Burgers thing is like a subplot where you find some documentation to blackmail fish odor, and then you end up choosing not to do it,
right?
And then he changes his heart because of that,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Like whatever, the money's fine.
Well, that's what I like about that him as a character is that he just like flips so quickly. Like he's so like dastardly, and then goes, "All right, forget it." Like it's really good. I think something that involves the whole town is good because then it gives us an excuse to go around to different places and bring in a lot of those side characters, which we talked about earlier, that are just like recurring, interesting characters that continue to show up, like the art, like the people who run the art shop, like Gail, like the transvestite hookers and stuff. Like there's like all the other characters that are like really interesting, and they show up sometimes in the shop, in the burger joint, but like they also are doing things around town, and those characters are one of those things that are really memorable about the show besides the main cast. So having an opportunity and excuse to go and like visit them and see what they're doing and what they're up to is a really cool idea.
It doesn't have to quite be that. Like there's an episode, I think in season 7, I think I've referenced it already. It's called the Church of Aquatica. There's like this little aquarium down the street from them in this episode, and I think Tina loves it because there's a little little like hands you can pet the like cucumber tank, and it's about to close, and then the kids convince the owner to apply for like a church, like so that
to get like tax write-offs.
To get tax write-offs and breaks. But then they end up like they're doing it selfishly, and I think Louise is probably doing it too. It's been a couple of months since I've seen it. I think Louise is probably trying to get money, or But then at the end of it, like the woman who was like alone falls in love with like the tax guy, and he like knows, but he doesn't care. That like he knows that they were doing it as a scam, but because he met the owner of the place, like he figures out a way to help them anyway.
Yeah,
and then like halfway through the episode, they the kids start to realize that there's attraction, so that their goal then diverts to getting those two together. So something that might be but that kind of thing is really in the spirit of the show, and I think what you were talking about, like where you're trying to help people,
right?
It's like keeping that sweetness, keeping that really
and
optimism.
The thing is too that a lot of times the show tends to set up a problem, and then people kind of go at each other's throats for a while, and then resolve it through some like stupidity that arises from fighting.
So like, oh, wait a minute, we're all in this room together. Why don't you two do this thing, and that would solve everyone's problem, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of like. I don't want to fight that guy, but I'll fight him if I have to. And then they get ready to fight, and like somebody gets hurt instantly, and then it's just sort of like, we shouldn't have done that. It's stupid. Like, you're right. I shouldn't have fought you. And then it's over with.
Right.
I feel like having fun in the game by being like doing a puzzle where you have to like set people against each other. In order to get them to solve their problems feels like something that would be cool, and it did, like, what the issue is, but you have to kind of get everybody to sort of realize what the solution is.
Yeah,
even
that makes
kids
sense.
See it, like,
and that kind of tracks with the kids are sometimes smarter than the adults, where their adults have a lot more like ego and pride, and they're not willing to admit they're idiots sometimes. And if they just went, look, I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have done that, I was wrong, they would solve like all these problems. But they don't, like, they're so bullheaded a lot of times, especially Bob. Like, he just refuses to be like, oh right, I'm an idiot, I shouldn't have done that thing, or I shouldn't have said that to my children, or whatever. And it's painfully obvious to the kids, but not to him. I feel it's really good. So do we want to like get into some more specifics about what the plot would be, and like how we would gel all that stuff together? Because we kind of talked in like a high level abstract form. We want to like dig in a little bit more.
Really try to make this game.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to start designing necessarily like puzzles, but I think that
we can come up. We can.
Okay, let's start writing down lists of items. This will be really interesting to listen to.
No, I mean, I'm sure they'll kind of high level pitch of certain puzzles will come out inevitably.
Yeah, sure, but I think that, if it is something, it could be a large, like, the town is in peril, or it could just be literally, like, Bob and Linda are missing. Like, they just are gone. They were going on a date, and they haven't come back, and it's, like, past midnight or something, and the kids want to find them. Or something. It could be something small, it could be something large, or, like, what feels like is in the spirit of the show the most.
Yeah, it's like, I almost feel like you need, like, we talked a little bit about this, but you need the big narrative. What's the big narrative that's going on? And there are episodes within that. Like, I can see Bob and Linda getting trapped. They try to like be sexy and in a phone booth. You know what I mean? Like, to kind of recapture the magic, and then they just get stuck in the phone booth, and there's like a puzzle to get out. Like,
or if they have to like call their kids. But like they have to like somehow like finagle their arms to like get a coin out of like Linda's purse and put it in a coin machine, like in the slot, and it's just
like a dumb puzzle that fits within the show's kind of purview.
Right.
That's not the story though. It's like why they need to get out of the phone booth is the story. So I mean the cleanest, the easiest thing for me, like the thing that would be the most obvious is a Mr. Fischoeder story, like you were kind of getting at, Chris. Like,
he's the biggest thing to the series villain, the closest thing to the
I think so
villain.
And he's also the one that you don't have to really put a lot of effort into motivating,
right? Yeah, he can just sort of like, I'm gonna sell the place, and that's
the game starts and that's it. There's not a bigger problem than that initial problem,
and that's always the thing that's come
through
up
playing the game. Through the acts of the game, you find out that there's more to it than that, and solving it is actually sort of a personal. You get involved personally with Mr. Fischoeder's business,
right?
In the way that they tend to do for some reason, like the Belchers
It's like somehow really like friendly with him.
Personal, like it never seems to affect their real relationship at all in any real way. Like, but it's cool that happens, right? Like, so I feel like the game. Like there's a section where you're tailing Mr. Fischoeder and finding out something about him, and then it turns out that, there's a thing the show does as well, is again these sort of virtual expectations. So it's like you feel like he's doing something nefarious, but it's actually like he's.
It's definitely selfish, but it's not as nefarious as you might think.
Yeah, exactly. Selfish and nefarious are different. So like he's got a pet zebra or something.
Well, the idea that like he's going to sell all his property in town and like move or something, that's like. The threat of
because he's bored, maybe even.
Yeah. But like the idea that he's the threat of being foreclosed on is like an ever-present looming thing for Bob. Like he can never make rent on time. Every time Mr. Fischoeder comes in, he's like, "Sorry, we're late on rent," and there's always the threat of them not renewing his lease, and like just shutting the restaurant down has always been a big thing. But like the town itself somehow being affected by that, instead of it like just Bob's Burgers, the restaurant, being like that chunk of town because he just owns all that property.
Well, that's great because you have more than one problem to solve.
Right.
So by solving everybody else's problems, you kind of lead to the larger problem.
Right. Well, you solve your own problem as well, which is Bob's Burgers will go away, but everything in town will also go away probably. So, or you could set up, and this is again, if we want to talk about cliches, like you could have Mr. Fischoeder being like, all right, I'm going to sell to this guy, and it's like a real villain, and he's like, I'm going to wipe all these things out of here, like no more burger place, so like I'm not going to be as lenient about you missing rent as Mr. Fischoeder was or something. And you can have like, you thought Mr. Fischoeder was an asshole, but this guy's like a real like shark, and he's going to like start really cracking down on rent and raising rent, and like maybe you do like compare
is Mr. Footodor or something. Like, he's like
his like evil cousin.
Yeah.
But something, I don't know, maybe that's another way we could go with it too. I don't know if that adds anything or not, adds another character, but the idea that Mr. Fischoeder wasn't actually all that bad is kind of interesting. Comparatively.
So would we invent a new character? Because I can't think of anybody.
Well, no, yeah, it would be a new character for sure. Yeah, like that would be like the out of town like business magnate that comes in and says, all right, if you're going to sell me all this stuff, I'm going to bulldoze it and build condos or whatever,
This is prime waterfront property.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's that whole episode where they try and get Mr. Fischoeder to sell to his like Wonder Wharf to condo developers, and everyone starts hating that idea and then realizes, oh man, condo people money is great. And then he goes, oh wait, no, we shouldn't. Bob decides it's a bad idea because Wonder Wharf is kind of like the heart of the town, and it would really just destroy what's beautiful and magical about that place, and money's not worth it. And then everyone looks at him like, you're the asshole who told us to sell, and then somehow Bob is always in the center of that stuff. So it does sort of make sense that the fate of the town once again is sort of somehow surrounding or somehow centered around the Belcher family.
It's kind of like this is just sort of a reference that supports that, but there's the Jaws episode, the deepening, 3 deepening.
Yeah.
Where like Bob
he kills
sort of petitions to get the shark put into the wharf because it's history anyway, so he's the reason it got put there, so he's the one that has to. I don't know why I brought this up, it's just
you're agreeing with me.
Yeah, there's another example that supports that.
So I mean, like, what if we're going to have this idea, which I really like, about each of the kids or the characters, whichever, starting in a different place and having to like deal with. So that's one we could do it, where you start in different places and then eventually they meet up. And you can swap whenever you want, or we can do the chapters idea, which is like this is the.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I kind of feel like we, if we're. I mean, I don't know if we're going with the idea that you can come in on all kinds of different adventure games here. I feel like we can structure the it's got episodes within it, but also there's sort of that the main gameplay is sort of switching off. But like in the Tina portion, when you're Tina and you're at the high school, or fucking game with the high school, you're at the middle school. What is it called again? I keep
it has a good name, but I can't remember
the name of their school.
Yeah, the school's got a good name. It's Wagstaff.
Wagstaff, yeah.
So
Wagstaff.
So they're at Wagstaff, and there's a lot of stuff to solve there with Mr. Frund and like the other kids, like Zeke shows up and Jimmy Jr. shows up.
Right.
But like within that, there's also, Tina's notebooks and her, she has some sort of fantasy thing. Maybe there's a new crush and Jimmy Jr. gets jealous. But there's like a chapter within there, but she's still got a job to do, which is, years ago when Wagstaff was an insane asylum, Mr. Fischoeder had records,
right? Seems like they're buried somewhere below.
Father's records are there, and you can find them. They're like buried in the sub basement, and like getting into the sub basement is a problem because you need to go through, the official channels to kind of steal a key, and like Tina doesn't want to steal a key, so she tries to you can recruit Jimmy Jr. to help you, and it's like go over there and wag your tail so that they're distracted,
right? Yeah, do your dance,
and like she sees it as like. His amazing ass is
spellbinding
them, but then they're just looking at it like, why is this kid dancing on my counter?
Right. No, I like that.
It still distracts them. There's just a lot of good stuff that you could do there. Like the gameplay, the reward for. I always felt like playing those old LucasArts games that I got rewarded by like a cutscene or something that was like it felt like an accomplished something because it would fire off a new chunk of content that was kind of cool and new, and I feel like. Doing that kind of thing here would be really rad.
There would always be like a really cool musical. It would always reward you with like a musical. You did it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the you did it was always some sort of joke, right? Like it was always the thing once you put the two objects together and solve the puzzle. It was always something funny and something enjoyable to watch, and like that was a great reward. And that fits perfectly with that, where you convince Jimmy Jr. to like do this thing. For you, and it is hilarious, and the cutscene itself is really goofy, where in Tina Vision it's like this amazing, beautiful thing, and then you cut back to reality, and it just looks really silly and goofy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was kind of getting into this earlier, but I like the idea that, like, the overall story is, we set up that, the solution Louise comes up with is we got to blackmail Fischoeder.
Right.
Let's find some dirt on Fischoeder. And then they start digging, and the more they dig into Fischoeder's backstory, like, the worse it seems for a while, but then they find a piece of information that turns it around. His dad was in an insane asylum, and that means that, like, he killed his mother, and it was a sad thing, and Fischoeder, like, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, and, like, they weren't even rich then, and he, like, made himself rich, and it's reminding him of that kind of... is what gets you. I have more invested in this town, than just whatever it is. I don't know his actual backstory.
What's cool about that is that you can use. That's actually really great because you can use the different parts of town to remind Fischoeder about really good memories he had growing up there, and that's a really good excuse
and it gives you a reason
to
to go different places.
That's exactly right, and so you can have. Hey, remember this part? Remember how you interacted with this part of the town? And that's the Tina's section. And then, hey, Gene is over here in the wharf, and it used to be this other thing that your grandfather owned. And remember how that was when you spent time with your grandfather on the merry-go-round?
In the old school adventure game way, you would have like three the three trials of
get the three things,
the three pirate trials in Monkey Island. You get three things; they each get a thing, and you take those three things to him.
There's three kids, three things, perfect.
The law of three things to do in a video game, but it'd be a cool, like, you finally earn, or like, in Monkey Island 2, there's like 4 map pieces that you need to get the big whoop, like finding those, and then there being various trials in order to get them, but like you have these talismans that you can then take.
What would be great about what's great about some of those old adventure games too is like that would be the initial problem. And I think they did this in like Day of the Tentacle, but you'd solve that initial problem. They definitely did it in Thimbleweed Park, but you'd convince Mr. Fischoeder, but then all of a sudden, like Mr. Business or whatever the hell,
it's an escalation.
The bigger bad guy,
President Business.
Mr. Business is actually Gail's cat's name, which is great.
Just a character from the Lego Movie.
Well,
President Business is
Linda's sister's cat's name is Mr. Business, but But like then you convince Mr. Fischoeder, but then like the bad guy would like you can't change your mind.
It's too late, yeah.
And he would like kidnap him or something and take him into that like seedy part of town, and then you could unlock Bob, and you have to go.
That's cool. I like that.
Like you kind of.
It would be Felix for sure. I mean, it's kind of similar to that 2-part murder episode, but like the idea that Mr. Fischoeder turns around and he's like, "You're right, I shouldn't do that." And then Felix fucking forges his signature on the paperwork or something like that, where he bursts into the office and goes, "I'm not going to sell," and then you just see the cut in close to like the fish owner's signature on the paper, and Felix is who just sold it to Mr. Business.
And then fish owner just goes, "Okay," and he starts
and
then they just go, "No."
Well, guess that's done.
Yeah. Well, I tried.
Yeah, but then the escalation is cool because it's like when I was really young and I played Monkey Island, I thought that game was to do the 3 trials, and then once I did the 3 trials, the game would be over and I'd be a pirate, and that the game credits would roll, right?
Right.
So like the idea, and obviously it's not so surprising now, we've all played video games, but the idea that you're like, cool, that's the actual problem, and then the world kind of like zooms out a little bit. There's more to do, and now you're the adults, and now you have to deal with different issues.
You can introduce more characters. It's like there's that biker gang that would be great, like in the seedy part of that. You know what I'm talking about? The one-eyed snakes.
God, what's the name of that? Is his name like Monster?
It's like one-eyed snakes or one-eyed serpent. Critter,
yeah.
That's such a good episode. That's one of the best at like subverting. Like a biker gang comes, and then Bob ends up like having to like put 2 people that actually love each other together.
They like deliver their baby.
Yeah, and then they have their baby. But you kind of again like then you could get Marshmallow and all her people in there with them.
Well, I think you could do that in the game before then. I don't think like we don't do like the Wagstaff. You're only at Wagstaff. It's like that's the goal, but like you have to bounce back and forth between different places in the town in order to solve smaller problems that lead to this talisman.
Yeah, I agree.
That like so the way I was thinking about it is like you essentially have like the larger sprawling story is told in that section. You get all the information about like the parts of town and like oh yeah, fish odor was here, like here's a plaque with like a park bench in the shitty part of town with like his name on it or whatever because he donated money. And you sort of like that's the sort of story you're telling as they're solving these sort of minor problems that then lead to the larger solve, but like the end game is changed up in some way, like with Fisher like his Felix isn't going to sell, and then he like kidnaps Fish Odor and takes him to
Kingstead Island.
Yeah. Like something like that. So the end game takes place there, and it's like a new environment that you go to, and there's like puzzles to solve there, but it's like kind of less.
Yeah,
less of a large sprawling.
Yeah, it's a
more
small.
Of a focused,
I didn't
section.
think you meant like in the game there by any means, but I think it's kind of like moving the marker. You know what I mean? Like moving the finish line further and further back is always the fun part of those games. Like every time you think you've done everything, it's like nope, there's a whole new. And that's always a good, you're kind of ready for closure, but then when you're told there's like way more of this content you loved, like that's always a reward in itself, like one of the funny cutscenes.
Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean that we couldn't do that in a smaller way throughout the game. I feel like that's what you want. I think when you set up goalposts for people and they can feel like they're accomplishing things towards a larger end, but like the nice thing about this kind of plot. Assuming we're going to do something like this, is that like you can uncover more stuff.
Yeah,
right.
It's like you're going for this thing and you think that's the thing, and then no, it's not that. It's over here. It's under the restaurant.
Yeah,
and it's like you go there and you like tear up the basement floor, like, and then it's like a problem. You flood the restaurant, and then that's the problem you have to solve. Like, I feel like there's a lot of like.
So then, if we're going to do that way, which I think is a good move, then I would pitch to not have all the kids starting in a different place. I would pitch them all to start at school, and then the first like leg of that game, you get the talisman, the first talisman, and also unlock the open, like quote unquote open world, where like all 3 of you are doing puzzles in a small contained space to accomplish a specific goal, which is to get this MacGuffin, and once you've got the MacGuffin, the story then progresses to what you call like Act 2, and then you can leave, like you somehow like fake Bob's phone, like voice on the phone, and then like, hey, I need to bring my kids home. Then you get to leave school in the middle of the day, and then you have your bikes. You can take your bikes, and now you can go to like. Then you can split up and go to different places. Like Tina's going to go to Wonder Wharf, and Louise is going to go to the seedy part of town, and Gene's going to go to like whatever his friend's house or something.
Yeah, I think you unlock more places to go too as you discover.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like, it's like so you have an initial 3 that's kind of like the islands in Monkey Island 2 or whatever. You can bounce around. And then once you figure out, we can go to the seedy part of town. I don't know what it's called. Do they have,
I don't
It's like
I don't know if
downtown.
they named it.
yeah,
you
but
know.
like, it's like, there's something down there we need to go look
Right.
at and find, and then it's kind of like that's like a like they all go together,
Right.
set piece kind of beat. It's like a section of the game that is like an episode.
Well, if you get just
its own.
the school, and then it opens the wharf, and then it opens the
Yeah, but I think you basically like
You want to give them like 2 or 3 additional locations.
Yeah.
And from there, that goes to like 5 or 6
There's-
total.
right.
and you have to go to all 3 of them to kind of solve the puzzles. It's like there's a thing at the wharf that you need to solve the puzzle in the amusement park. Is that the same place?
It's the same place.
yeah.
But like, there's like the baseball diamond.
Damn it!
Or like,
I thought I was going to sound smart.
but there's like the garden that Bob Garden's at, or
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
The
there's-
blueberry farm.
Yeah, yes, right, yeah,
That's so
or
weird,
like
they call it.
Yeah, where you go to
you can go to the strip that has the restaurant on it, which has like Mort's, like the moratorium.
Yeah, that'd be a great location to go
Mortician,
like,
whatever.
like there's definitely a bone saw
Yeah,
you need. Or
yeah,
something like
absolutely,
That.
yeah.
Definitely
Why do
have
you
to
even
go.
have this?
You have to go to Mort's
take-
at some point. At some point.
Yeah. And then you have to sneak. What'd be cool is you have to sneak into Bob's Burgers, and they're doing their thing, but you don't want to get caught because you're supposed to be at school. So you don't want to have that as like a home base where you feel safe. It's just to like you have to steal stuff out of like to go downstairs and like get like something out of the meat grinder or like in the supply closet. But you can hear like Bob and Linda like making jokes and goofing upstairs, but you can't get caught because then they'll like send you back to school.
Right.
So you never feel like that's just a safe location. You have to treat it like every other sort of like.
It's kind of like being in the mansion in Maniac Mansion, right? Like you'd suddenly hear like, I gotta go down for more buns.
You're like, oh,
and
shit!
Then, now you have to like hide behind a plant for a little while Bob like rummages around and like he finds something you did and is like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced that we want to not play Bob and Linda. Because the thing is called the Bob's Burgers, and maybe not at first, but maybe what's good about that show too is like it's rare that all 5 family members will have the same storyline. You know what I mean?
That's
So maybe
true.
you could have the kids and then have a parallel thing that you're doing with Bob and Linda. And you'd figure out ways to kind of gate that and unlock those moments.
Well, you could have chapter breaks with them, where like you do a bunch of stuff with the kids, and then there's like a small, I wouldn't call it an act break, but like there's like a chunk of gameplay that is like Bob and Linda specific, that has different, maybe not necessarily mechanics, because I'm assuming we're using sort of standard click and pick up items and use items sort of mechanics, but there's something that you have to accomplish with them that then, like maybe you do have to call the school and get your kids out of school somehow, and that unlocks the kids to do more stuff. Like everything that Bob and Linda does sort of like facilitates the kids going to like, you call a taxi.
No,
for the
though.
kid.
I mean, I don't disagree necessarily, but I do think that like they're not in the game. I think they're in the game quite a bit. I keep looking at them like summons in Final Fantasy or something like
what?
that.
Please
Well,
explain.
Well, if you have them factor in, you talk to them fairly often. You can get them to do stuff for you or help you out with stuff. I feel like it would be. I think it's just too much to do 5.
I don't think so. See, and I would have thought that if I hadn't played Thimbleweed Park, because I think there are 5 playable characters at least, and you swap between them, and they're gated. Like some points you only have 3 of them. For a long time you only have the 2 agents, and then you get 3 more. Like, and you play their backstory first, where you have to like figure out just their backstory before you can get back to the main story, and then you'll meet back up with them in the present, and then they become another playable character, and then the agents go away, and then you only have those 3 guys, and like and what's cool about those is like they have different skill sets. Like one of them's a cursing clown, kind of like Krusty, and I think he can insult people or something, and then there's a ghost that can like zap stuff and he can't be seen. So like I would have thought that before this, before that game came out, but it's really interesting the way they do that, the way that they allow for so many playable characters, and it works, and it doesn't become sort of overbearing. And it's not information overload, but you need that many people that you need to think about who you're using for every puzzle. You know what I mean? It's only certain specific
Well,
ones.
I do think that that's something we would want to fold in, that idea regardless. Like I was actually thinking about like, one of the things I love about like Sam Max Hit the Road is you can like use Max sometimes to like do stuff like you can't get these like instructions out of this kitten that's trying to barf him up, so you use Max and he just reaches down his throat and grabs it, and I feel like
It was more of an item.
like he is more of an item, but like the disappointing thing is not being able to actually play as him for, like, to me.
Yeah.
I feel like, but that Louise fills that function. It's like you have this person who's like, you need Louise to solve this.
Yeah.
And like, so the kids they go in their own separate ways originally, but maybe they can go to the other places. And you can, like,
I was going to actually bring that up. Like, I feel like we need to have that they each have some sort of different, like, quote unquote power. And I don't want it to be like hardwired into, like, you have the, like, reach up high ability, or you have the, like, make people laugh ability. But like, you definitely want to have that, like, well, Louise is just a psychopath, so she's going to do, like, this violent thing that no one else will do, but it isn't like a hard-coded mechanic, like capital M mechanic. But she's willing to, like, threaten someone with a butter knife that she thinks is really sharp to, like, get something out of, like, the twins, Jimmy Jr.'s younger brothers or something, like, to, like, intimidate them to get something. And the other two kids won't do that because they're too nice.
Well, I would say, like, you have different conversations with them. Like, there's different dialogue options that you have. They're going to talk to the same person as each kid.
Yeah.
But you have a different conversation with them, And that one conversation with Tina hints that Louise is going to have to solve this.
That's kind of what I'm saying, right? Yeah, you want to gate them with different children for sure, but you don't want to. I'm saying we don't want to have, like, this kid has the lockpick. You know what I mean? Like the Resident Evil style. Like,
for sure.
I would avoid going in that route.
You'd say something that, like, I'm not the aggressive. Like, you click on something and Tina would say, "I'm not the aggressive one."
Yeah, exactly.
Something that kind of clears you. You need Louise like this without saying it.
Or like Jean is the one that like the way that Max gets, like, thrown into, like, electric breakers and stuff. Like, Jean could be the one who just takes a lot of physical punishment and just can handle that and doesn't faze him at all.
Or can
or
pick up
a lot of
things.
embarrassments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Like, if there's something gross you need, like,
or
you have to go in the boys' bathroom. You know what I mean?
No, that's great. That's perfect.
Like,
Yeah, because that's a
Tina
really obvious one.
But
Tina, like, really wants to do it, and she's like, "No, I can do it. Let me try."
But the janitor's standing right there, so he won't let her.
God, I can just imagine the scene where, like, you click on it and the camera just pans over and the janitor just like, shakes his head, and she goes, "Oh, okay," and just closes the door again.
Tina's daydream, like, she'll break away and have, like, these really weird daydreams, but, like, kind of incorporating that kind of thing into the game. Where, like, there's one where, like,
I just said that.
She talks about going to hell.
Yeah.
In the show, and then it just cuts to her in hell, and, like, she's in the lunch line, and they're like, "We're having, like, maggots and fried worm's eyes today," and she's like, "No, we had that yesterday." But, like, that, and then it cuts back to reality.
Like, I think you should do that for all the kids, honestly. I think that because they each have their own, like, weird things about, like even Gene thinks, like, he's, like, on this performing stage a lot of times, and he's got, like, the really amazing, like, guitar, and really it's just his little bit keyboard and stuff. And I think that we definitely would want to do that.
But I was thinking about structure and, like, kind of not quite clear on, like, where we start the game.
I think you start in the school as with the kids, and the reason is because I honestly, maybe it doesn't matter so much, but the idea that you have this, like, the school and all the other kids around you, and the thing preventing you from doing the thing you want to do is, like, Mr. Frann and, like, the school rules, quote unquote.
So I'd say that you
probably want to.
That's the first day after they find the problem out.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Let me wind back. So you have the, like, introductory cutscene.
Like, the kids come back to the restaurant. Mr. Fisher's there, like, telling Bob.
Yeah. And you have the, like, nighttime scene where they're all on the couch in their house.
Exactly. They you have the scene where they have, like, a secret meeting with a flashlight in the house to kind of talk about what just happened, and then the next day they decide they're going to do something about it.
Well, then we would have to clue in somehow in that opening cutscene that, like, there's something in the school, like, Mr. Fisher has some weird connection to what the school used to be, and maybe we don't tell anyone that it was an insane asylum. I really like that, by the way, which I assume that's not actually in the show, and it sounds like it easily could be, and then, like, there's the episode where they go into the abandoned taffy factory looking for, like, gold, just because what's the guy that's always in the Teddy, like, tells him a story about it and then draws, like, a butt on a piece of paper to pretend it's a map. Like, he's just making a goof, but, like, that's enough to get them thinking that it's real. So if somebody just, like, offhandedly comments, yeah, but that's the best part. Like, someone just offhandedly makes a comment that might clue, like, maybe this was a thing, and then like Louise just takes it at face value.
Drops something on his way out, and
right, yeah,
you know what I mean? They pick it up. It's just something as simple as that.
Yeah, and like the idea that that's enough to she takes it at face value, and they're like, okay, something's in the school for sure. I'm 100% convinced, and then you just start.
It's his personalized license plate as a clue. They can see it when it's driving off, and like Louise can't get it out of her head.
Well, we could say like Wagstaff alumni on it.
Yeah,
like
it's just something that like.
Well, you want to know what you should have is like it's like
something that doesn't seem like it would be an actual clue, and then they look it up and they're like, oh my god, it's real.
It's something small that you can actually put in your inventory, right? Because she like takes it. It goes in your inventory. You can look at it whenever you want, and then eventually you get to the place that it fell off of in the like sub basement, and she like holds it up to like the dusty like imprint of like the nameplate on a door or something, and she's like, and it like it fits here.
But does that? And I'm speaking more kind of with the game maker's hat on. But does it give you the goal there?
I think you get, if we're talking about the three things, I think you get the first thing before you get to explore the world at large. And the other two are slightly harder to get.
Well, I think you have to get through the school as the kids, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry, yeah.
Then you do everything you want to do as the kids, and then maybe if we decide to go in that direction, then you, like, they all get stuck into detention for doing what you did, and then you switch to the parents, and you have to go through a series of puzzles before you can unlock the kids again, potentially. Do you know what I mean? Like, they could gate it that sort of way.
I think, regardless of parents or no parents, I think that you definitely want to have the like first act of that game be in the school with the kids. Well, like the first interactive part, you get the first like totem that you're going to show Mr. Fishoder, like what the value of this town and the way that it is, and not to like abandon it and sell it. And then
that leads you to the other ideas.
Yeah, and you're like, maybe we collect these things from all around these specific places.
Leads you to an old hobo that you've seen a bunch of times, and he's actually like. He knew Fishoder. He's like,
oh, here's the other two places he
went to,
yeah.
And like he tells you a story about like
or you look through that. It's a yearbook or something, and like there's other places in the yearbook that he's been, and you have to find those places where they are now or something. Like there's some sort of landmarks on them. You know what I mean? You can find them.
There's like a person in the yearbook that you find.
Yeah, exactly. Like a really young version of the woman that runs the art store or something.
A picture of Fishoder with that person or something.
Yes.
Yeah, and like, oh my god, they knew each other.
And then you can have that book and like use book on person and be like, what's this all about? Tell me about that period in his life. And then,
like, why did they write this in your yearbook?
Yeah. See you next year. What's that mean? But I do like the idea that like the last third of the game, the last like quarter of the game is on Kingside Island, where you take the ferry and it's like a one-way trip, and it's like, okay, the finale of the game.
You have to like steal the ferry, like the kids drive it over there. And,
oh man, it's so good. Yeah, you crash it, perfect.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the game takes place on Kingside Island, which is a just smaller version of town. There's still like a couple of locations you can go to on that island, like maybe 2 or 3 different small locations you can go to, and maybe the parents are kidnapped as well, or maybe it's just Felix and Mr. Fishoder or whatever. And it's just like, you have that signposted the entire game. Like when I played King's Quest 6 when I was a kid, like you have this magic map you can click on it and take you to different islands, and there's this one corner of the map that's just covered in fog, and every time you try and click on it, it's like you can't go there, it's just fog there, and then like way late in the game the fog like clears like magically on the map and there's a whole other island you can go to, and you've just been like, seeing that the whole game.
Yeah.
So every time you go by the ferry, it's just like, you can't use this yet, it's still being repaired or whatever, like the captain hasn't come back, he's drunk somewhere, and then if finally you solve that thing.
It's funny, like, so I was thinking it might be fun if you have like a puzzle where you find out the captain's like an alcoholic, and you get like a decoy bottle of liquor, and it's like, I don't just take any kind of liquor from children. Then it's like, I need this one specifically. You know what I mean? Like,
I only take this specific bottle of liquor from children.
Yeah,
that's good.
And then like you fill it with like cough medicine that makes him sleepy or something. You
just not fully knock him out.
Yeah, and then
just enable his alcoholism. I do like the idea that they steal the ferry and like smash it up, because that's
it seems like they're gonna crash
Burgers.
it. Like the Bob's Burgers things would probably be. It seems like it's gonna crash,
and then it's just like docked perfectly.
It just stops, yeah, and it just goes boom, and it's just done. It's like, oh, that was anticlimactic, and they just get off and
but they don't moor it, so it just kind of like floats away.
Yeah, they're stuck there on the island.
I think that. I like that a lot, because it just feels like that escalation you're talking about, where you move the goalposts a little bit and you're like, you thought you were done, like you've done all this great work, and then someone comes in and kicks your sandcastle over and you're like, shit, now we have to like deal with a much more escalated version of what we were working on. And
well, similarly, I'm wondering like if the first level is like, you're the kids and you have the problem of school, right?
Yeah.
And we're trapped in the school, so maybe the first goal is actually you could find the first totem there, but it's sort of secondary and accidental.
I kind of feel like you go back to the school.
But I feel like the first goal could be we need to close school. Like they have to. They have to back up all the sewers or something. You know what I mean? So the school is like
just out.
They can't have kids.
That's
there.
cool.
I always love things when you cause the problem that you then have to solve later because it's like fun to we
burst all the
school,
pipes.
then you find out that it's there, and then we have to go back, and then you have to figure out how to clear the sewage. You know?
Yeah, no, I like that because then you burst all the water pipes, and then you realize you have to go to the sub basement, which is now flooded, and it's like chest high water, and you have to go through it, and all the stuff half the stuff down there is waterlogged and ruined. You've ruined a bunch of history down there. The one thing you want hasn't been ruined. That's actually really cool. I like that.
Yeah,
but I think it would be it's all right for just opening up and exploring. Whatever the name is, the town Wagstaff as well. I don't think.
It doesn't have a specific name. It's very clearly supposed to be the Jersey Shore. Says my girlfriend from the Jersey Shore.
I think it's got all the things you'd want in a Bob's Burgers game, right? You want to be able to interact with. You want to set it up in a way that you can meet and interact with all these characters, and they all, especially the bigger ones like Mickey or we have an
Rollerblades guy,
Rollerblades guy, Marshmallow, Mort, Teddy, Jimmy Pesto. Zeke,
Jimmy Pesto,
Jocelyn
location.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what's cool is I'd like to see more about Jimmy Pesto.
Yeah,
more about that restaurant.
You need to get that girl's necklace that sucks on her necklace.
Oh man, yeah. I like an adventure game is just perfect, and that's the reason we picked it, just because it's so perfectly set up to you solve a puzzle and you get a joke. You solve a puzzle and you get a piece of feedback or a reward that is funny and character based and just feels very much like a bit from the show. And that's definitely
hearing these characters comment on all kinds of stuff like it's great to walk around and click on things and hear them talk. I love the idea too. If they're near each other, that you would hear them respond.
They have
if you're playing as Louise and you click, then Jean would respond to that. It just feel really good.
One great puzzle I think would be is if you go to the laser tag place and you have to beat the Phenomenon Mom in a rematch.
Oh man, yeah, that was a great one with the it's a weird mother-daughter bonding.
Yeah.
Workshop, but there's that recurring character of the really crappy preppy mom and her shitty son that Louise hates, and it's her nemesis, and the mom and the son don't get along at all. So Logan, she brings him along to this mother-daughter thing because she's out of ideas of what to do to bond with her son, and then they just end up hating each other, and then it sort of breaks out into the nearby laser tag arena, and they just get all their aggression by killing each other in the laser tag arena. It's really good.
But that kind of thing, there's all that thing. There's sort of episodes and
references to other episodes.
Yeah, but without completely rehashing. But you could go there, and then he's still mad from that, so you have to beat him. You know what I mean?
I like he just abandoned his career there, and now it's just that creepy dude who just hangs out in the laser tag place, just killing all the kids, just destroying them in the scores. He's just that one guy who plays way too hard.
But it'd be cool too, because that kind of thing can provide the mini game we talked about, in the in Tina's fantasy. I don't know. Yeah, it just seems all built in there. There's just so many places. It's so ripe for so much fun. From an interactive standpoint.
No, I agree. I think it fits really well.
Yeah.
We hope you agree.
Yeah. I want to play this game.
We got to make it first.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just put this out there and somebody else will make it.
Yeah. It's all the work's done, right?
Play it. Yeah.
We did all the hard stuff.
And
it's all done. There's nothing
else to figure out.
There's 3 hours of bonus content where we just come up with puzzles for you.
Yep. Yeah. Stay tuned for the additional cast that is just that.
All right, that's it for this week. Join us next time when we tackle Edgar Wright's new film Baby Driver. And for the first time, we are going to do a new thing where we don't know ahead of time what we're going to do with it because we haven't seen it yet. So, yeah. There you go.
Don't miss it.
It sounds great.
The movie, not the podcast.
Yeah, the movie sounds great, not the podcast.
All right, that's this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening. Please follow us on Twitter at storiedcast and send any feedback to storiedcast@gmail.com. See ya. 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 See ya.